Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, welcome to this memorial event. Tonight we honor and pay tribute to the life and art of the late, great, genius, master painter Jamil Naqsh. First, we're going to have a recitation from the Holy Quran by Muhammad Asif, followed by the national anthem.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها صدق الله العظيم.
Great national anthem. My name is Sadia Barlow. I'm a photographer and a close friend of the family. I was first introduced to Jamil Naqsh and Najmi Surah over 20 years ago through his son and daughter-in-law. In those days, Naqsh enjoyed social events and would sit with us contemplating life, art and politics. However, some years ago he withdrew from the social scene and I have not seen him since. I have, however, remained close to the family. To be here tonight is both an honor and a privilege, for which I'd like to thank Najmi Surah and the entire family. I would like to start with a quote from Naqsh. Life's unending monotony was unbearable, but I accepted the pain and began to live with it. An oyster feels agony caused by a grain of sand, but covers the pain layer upon layer, creating a thing of beauty. Thus I paint. Naqsh was born on the 25th of December in 1939 in Kerala, India, where he spent the first 8 years of his life. With the emergence of Pakistan in 1947, he migrated, accompanied by his older brothers, leaving his father behind. Sadly, they were never to meet again. The journey to the newly formed Pakistan was harsh, but it had an impact on Naqsh that was to resonate throughout his life and art. Raised without his parents, in a new country, and in unfamiliar surroundings, times were difficult and money was tight. Through hardship, Naqsh learned very quickly the art of survival. The security and happiness Naqsh experienced in his early years had helped instill a sense of dignity, which was to carry him for the rest of his life. In his own words, Naqsh said, "I inherited a great deal from my parents. I'm a part of the great civilization of this subcontinent. That is why I feel, think, believe, and live the way I do." Growing up, Naqsh was drawn to the arts, and in 1954 he joined the Mayo School of Arts and Crafts. But he only lasted a year and left to become a full-time student of Ustad Sharif, a dedicated miniaturist who was delighted with his impassioned, thriving student, and instilled in Naqsh a discipline and work ethos that never left him. A year later, Naqsh left for Karachi, where he discovered an established art community and access to materials, books and magazines like never before. Karachi was a flourishing city at this time, and a job offer in a leading advertising agency marked a fundamental turning point for him. For the first time, Naqsh had a regular income which enabled him to buy much-needed art materials. Naqsh quickly established himself as an artist and had his first solo exhibition in 1962 at the Lahore Arts Council. Over the years, he was offered a number of opportunities to exhibit his work abroad. However, Naqsh had different ideas, claiming that he must first be understood in his own environment before venturing further afield. He famously turned down an offer to move to the USA by American cultural attaché Dr. Schofield, a decision he never regretted. In the 1970s, Naqsh achieved the status as one of the country's leading artists. And in true Naqsh form, he steadfastly refused to give up or give in to the pressures of gallery deadlines, and was able to differentiate between his desire to paint and the need to fulfill a gallery deadline. This was the depth and strength of his conviction, one that he never compromised. Naqsh was presented with a number of awards, including the Pride of Performance Award in 1989 by the government of Pakistan and the Sitar-e-Imtiaz in 2009. In 1999, the Jamil Naqsh Museum was established, a first for a living Pakistani painter, which holds an impressive collection of around 1,000 paintings, generously donated by the master himself. In 2003, Naqsh and Sura surprised their friends and family by moving to London, where he was warmly received as a maestro by the art fraternity. He went on to have approximately 30 international solo exhibitions. Throughout his life, Naqsh was labelled as a recluse, a term with which he never agreed. It was not that he rejected the outside world, for he did meet a select group of people and took great interest in current affairs, reading newspapers, watching the news, browsing the internet on his iPad. Naqsh chose to live the way he did so he could concentrate and dedicate time to his work. Over the past 2 decades, he was known to say, "Mere paas time nahi hai. I do not have time." It is like he had an inner sense of urgency to gift this world as much of his art as possible. Today, Naqsh is recognized as one of the country's most distinguished, celebrated, respected master painters, whose influence should not be underestimated. remember that Naqsh was a family man and never happier than when surrounded by members of his own family. Indeed, they describe him as their touchstone, their rock, the ceiling of their family home. At this juncture, I must also mention Najmi Surah, sitting here in front of me, who was Naqsh's constant companion, with him 24 hours a day, his muse, his confidant, his best friend. Your loss, and indeed the loss of the family, must be immense. But it must give you great comfort to know that his work will resonate in this world for generations to come. I would now like to welcome His Excellency High Commissioner, Mr. Nafis Zakaria, to say a few words.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to the Pakistan High Commission, Ms. Najmi Surah, and distinguished guests here. Today, as we know, that we have gathered here to pay tribute to a world-renowned Pakistani artist, Mr. Jamil Naqsh, who passed away recently. On behalf of the government of Pakistan and Pakistani community in the UK, I'm joined by my colleagues and our families in extending our deepest condolences to the bereaved family. Jamil Naqsh is an artist of eminent stature who needs no introduction and was an iconic figure in the world of art in Pakistan and globally. He belonged to a generation of artists such as Sadiq Khan, Bashir Mirza, Ahmed Parvez, Shahid Sajjad, Masood Kohari, to name a few, who gave direction to Pakistani art. We are indebted to him and his contemporaries for their selfless services to the country. Born in 1939, late Naqsh Sahab grew up in a home frequented by artists, writers, poets, musicians, politicians, and others. Naqsh Sahab's style is distinct and easily recognizable, and his art has been described as both innovative and representative. As I noted from his admirers, writers on him, there are numerous, if you search online, there are many. So I'm not no expert on his work, so I've actually drawn upon the admiration which has been posted immensely flooded on the internet. That Jamil Naqsh was a skillful craftsman. During his 6 decades long work of art, he uniquely portrayed famous personalities from Islamic history and idealized figures such as Punjabi farmers, Kashmiri peasants, and other common people. Late Naqsh Sahab had a great sense of ownership and pride in the country's heritage. Through his works, he has retained the history of Indus Valley, which was discovered by foreigners and contextualized, dissected, and categorized by foreign institutions. As his followers and admirers cite him that the ancient city of Mohenjo-daro needed to be represented by his own descendants. Fabulous Naqsh Sahab reimagined the dancing girl as named by famous archaeologist and historian Dr. Mortimer Wheeler as a fisherwoman using the ancient symbols from the seals of Mohenjo-daro and other visuals. Mr. Naqsh's contributions to the promotion of art were duly recognized by the government of Pakistan, and this lady already mentioned about that. He was conferred upon the President's Pride of Performance Award in 1989 and Sitara Imtiaz in 2009. In 1980, the Shahri Award was conferred upon him. In 1982, he was given Lifetime Achievement Award by the prestigious the Arts Council of Pakistan for his 20 years of contribution to art. Professor Shakir Ali paid tribute to Mr. Naqsh in the words that in him the professor saw his worthy successor. During his time in London, Jamil Naqsh continued the artwork which has found its rightful place at the prestigious Albemarle Gallery, London. It is important for our younger generation to know about the culture of art in Pakistan and recognize Mr. Jamil Naqsh and such icons. His demise is a great loss for the family, as also for the country and the art lovers. We pray to Allah Almighty that the departed soul may rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Sarah Pirzada Usmani, a close friend of the family, a banker by profession, and an avid admirer of art.
Good evening, His Excellency, High Commissioner of Pakistan, Mr. Nafiz Zakaria, Najmi Sura, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here today to celebrate the life of a legend, a phenomenal person who dedicated his life to his passion and brought art to many of our lives. I'm honored and feel privileged to be here today as Jamil Uncle and Najmi Auntie became the family I so craved during our time in London. I remember the first time I met Jamil Uncle as my father-in-law, Emma Usmani's closest friend. I walked into their London apartment and was welcomed into a warm and loving family embrace. I felt immediately at home. From then onwards, I don't remember a week going by without us visiting their home, Najmi Auntie's delicious cooking, and Jamil Uncle always insisting, "Khana khakar jana." We would sit for hours talking about everything under the sun. Jamil Uncle was one of the most humble men I have ever met in my life. The fame he achieved in his life is unparalleled, and yet he always maintained a very humble demeanor, always downplaying his success. He had no airs, no arrogance whatsoever, just a down-to-earth, caring man who wanted to paint his passion and bring things to life. I learned a lot about art from my father-in-law, and then who was an art connoisseur and a close friend of Jamil Uncle, and then from Jamil Uncle, whose work I find mesmerizing. I saw many of Jamil Uncle's paintings come to life. Blank canvases began to speak words and tell stories, and each story was different. One day I walked into the Wigmore Street apartment and there were 3 blank canvases lined up horizontally on the wall. I wondered to myself, how can Jamil Uncle make something of this magnitude in such a small room with limited depth? Over a course of several weeks, I saw that painting come to life in various shades of blues. A flutter of countless pigeons, each with different expressions in their eyes. It was no ordinary painting. It was 3-dimensional. Each pigeon had its own story to tell. It was a truly unforgettable painting. Each conversation with Jamil Uncle would start with him asking, "Usmani saab kaise hain? Salma bhabi theek hain? Ami Abba sab theek hain?" He was a man of few words, but he said enough, and his words of wisdom resonated with me. One evening, we were having a discussion on various styles of art, and I had just been to the Tate Modern. I told Jamil Uncle that I was not very impressed with contemporary art, and it was beyond my understanding. He looked at me with surprise and said, "Main tumhe dikhaunga." A few weeks went by. The conversation was long forgotten by me until one day he showed me this painting. I remember looking at it in awe. It was contemporary, and yet I couldn't take my eyes off it. I still remember his words, "Tum isko jab bhi dekhogi, tumhe kuch naya hi nazar aayega." I cannot describe the feeling it evoked in me, and each time I saw it, I saw something different, something I had never seen before, just like he had said. I have so many beautiful memories of our time in London that I could go on and on. I always looked forward to meeting Jamil Uncle, and and each evening was meaningfully spent always talking about family, art, and politics, and precisely in that order. Jamil uncle, we missed you dearly. I cherish the time we spent with you in London. Even now when I walk into your home, it feels like my home. I remember the painting you made for us before we started our family. 2 pigeons and a shadow of another. You said in your art what you couldn't say in your words. I will always remember your words when we moved to Singapore. Ab bas bahut ho gaya, ab wapas aa jao, which will always stay with me. Rest in peace, Jamil uncle. May Allah grant you the highest place in Jannat. Though you're not here with us today, your memory will always live on with us forever, until we meet again. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to invite Marjorie Hussain up here. Ms. Hussain came to Pakistan in the 1960s after her marriage to Hamid Hussain. Initially known for her art, she became Pakistan's trailblazing art critic.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening all. This evening we meet to celebrate the life and mourn the loss of Pakistan's internationally celebrated artist Jamil Naqsh. He was an independent spirit, a man with deeply thoughtful convictions on life and art. Many books were written on Jamil Naqsh, and I've always thought his life would make a very interesting film. Jamil Naqsh was in his early teens when he spent 2 years traveling through South Asia, studying the art and the history of the countries he passed through. His initial idea was to visit his ancestral home, but he found that now it existed only in his memory. His journey ended in 1953 when, returning to Lahore, Jamil joined the Mayo School of Art. After a year with Shahid Ali, he decided he would study and practice miniature art with Haji Muhammad Sharif. Every morning at dawn, as dawn broke, Jamil and his ustad would sit cross-legged on the floor in front of an open door and begin to work. It was a habit that Jamil continued to practice throughout his life. His working day began at 4 a.m. After working with his ustad for 1 year, Jamil made his way to Karachi. In those days, Karachi was the capital city of Pakistan. There was work going on to create a Karachi Arts Council. The American Center had a sketch club going with a large library of art books. For this reason, Jamil and his close friend Masood Kohari, who became Pakistan's first artist to create ceramics, joined the sketch club, and they would take out books and discuss the work and the artists at length. One day, I was helping the advertising magnate, Mr. Mahmood, to set up the art gallery that he had taken over from Bashir Mirza, which set off to travel. 2 American gentlemen walked in and asked me if I was in touch with Jamil Naqsh. Yes, I replied. They then informed me that they were keen to show Jamil's work in the USA and would like to meet him and discuss matters. I was quite thrilled to hear this. They went on to request me to ask Jamil Naqsh to meet them at their hotel for dinner that evening at 8 p.m. As soon as they left, I went off to Jamil's office and gave him the message. He smiled and thanked me. A couple of days later, the same gentleman found me and related Jamil had not turned up. I was quite puzzled, and meeting Jamil later, I asked him why he did not turn up to meet them. Jamil answered, an artist must be known in his own country before showing his work in other countries. Jamil made his home in Karachi in 1960, and in 1962 he showed his work in exhibition at the Karachi Arts Council. He participated in the ongoing art scene until 1969, when from that time he stopped showing his work in public exhibitions. As one got to know Jamil, it was clear that life had taught him early on to make his own decisions and resolve his own problems. For Naqsh throughout his life, pigeons were to symbolize an integral facet and love of his early years in Carolina, when the birds flew through the open windows. And wherever he was, he never forgot. Naqsh created numerous paintings of the birds that were symbolic of his early life. Najmi Sura, whose family Jamil had spent time with in his youth, asked Jamil for advice on her painting. Working with her, she became his muse, and from that time stayed by his side. I can recall the only time I saw Jamil Naqsh deeply upset. It was a time when he was residing in London, and the movement was on to remove the birds from Trafalgar Square. They were being killed. Jamil showed me a number of drawings, enough to make a book, of the terrible war on the pigeons. I never heard or saw that work again. Only Najmi Sura would know what happened to them. They were powerful and terrifying, and I've never forgotten them. In Karachi, the media was supportive of the artist and regularly wrote on exhibition as an artist, enticing the public to see the work. In 1981, at the Indus Gallery of Ali Imam, Wahab Jaffer held his first solo exhibition, and Wahab always remembered and related how Jamil Naqsh had attended and brought 2 paintings, saying with a smile, "These are to repay you for the 2 paintings of mine you bought." In 1996, for the first time in years, Naqsh left the studio, and with Najmi he travelled to France, Italy, London and the USA. The event inspired a body of work titled Homage to Marino Marini, in which he emphasized the power and beauty of the horse. In 1999, a distinguished group of 8 people, friends and admirers of Jamil Naqsh's work, got together and set up the Jamil Naqsh Foundation. This was a museum gallery with a permanent collection of Naqsh's work, which enlarged in time to create an adjacent gallery for other artists. It was here that Jamil's daughter Mona Naqsh held her first exhibition, and it was a great success. Mona had painted flowers inspired by a painting Jamil had done for a friend. I have a painting from that time which remains a great treasure, my mother's favourite flowers in a glass of water, ever fresh and beautiful. Art continued to expand throughout the country with galleries opening and public interest. A most exciting event took place, the first exhibition of a living artist shown at the Mahatma Palace, Karachi, in coordination with the Jamil Naqsh Foundation in 2003. It was a tremendous affair with hundreds of paintings by Jamil Naqsh shown throughout the great building. The unusual and exciting art event attracted artists and students coming from far and wide throughout the country, as well as the art lovers, writers, collectors. It was a huge undertaking which created a historic landmark in Karachi. There came a time when a change took place in the country, when paintings were frowned upon. And one remembers people taking them down from their walls in offices and in homes. Artists endeavoured to paint calligraphic paintings which were considered acceptable to show. Artists such as Bashir Mirza put down their brushes and refused to paint during that period. Artist Nagori had his exhibition in Islamabad cancelled, and Ali Imam bravely showed it in his gallery. We all turned up to support Nagori, Ali Imam and the gallery. Many expected there might have been repercussions and were prepared, but no outsider turned up and it became a bit of a joke. I dropped in to see Jamil Naqsh one day and complained about the state of affairs, saying, "It's a terrible time for art." Jamil immediately gave me the answer, saying, "Oh no, it's a great time for art. You can paint what you like. No one comes into your studio to check on what you're doing." I realised he was right. Over the years, Jamil Naqsh was awarded numerous medals, prizes and awards in Pakistan, including the highest award in the land. But he never attended the occasion to receive the award. He remained in his studio. The time came when Jamil Naqsh settled in London. At the popular Albemarle Gallery in London, annual exhibitions of his work took place, with admirers and friends coming from far and wide. Jamil never attended these events, though he heard so much about them from friends and family. Jamil preferred to stay at home and work. Wherever he was, his work came first throughout his life. One celebrates the fact that now in Karachi, there is a magnificent Jamil Naqsh museum designed and built by the architect's son, Jamil Naqsh. There one may visit, and on several floors of the museum, view the work of Jamil Naqsh at every stage of his genius. A wonderful experience for art lovers and art students of the past, the present and the future. One may feel that Jamil Naqsh communicates with us for all times to come. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Marham Anjum. Marham is a London-based, award-winning designer, ceramist and researcher.
Good evening. Thank you, Coco and family, for asking me to share a few memories of our dear Gigi. I used to call Jamil Uncle Gigi. I know Gigi through my great friend Shayla, who is here today. Our friendship spans over 30 years. Oh, switched off.
I first met Gigi at a party at her house 225 in Karachi. I remember being fascinated by the paintings that hung on every wall, particularly captivated by a painting, Woman with White Doves by Shakir Ali, one of the pioneers of modern art in Pakistan, in the main room. I believe Shakir Ali was a good friend of Gigi's from NCA days. Gigi came in the room and said, "Ye Shakir Ali ki painting hai." And I told Gigi how much I loved the colours and his work. And at the time I wanted to be an artist, not sure what type of artist, but I wanted to be an artist. And he smiled. It is impossible for me to talk about Gigi only. For me, it is Gigi and Coco, Najmi Surah, his partner and the love of his life for over 50 years. As a teenager visiting her house, I was captured not only by the incredible, ever-changing paintings in different techniques, but the woodwork, flowers, display of beautiful ceramics, stone carvings, trees that grew inside the house, and the gorgeous Karachi sunlight coming through the numerous windows of their home. It was a place, for me, of inspiration and comfort as an aspiring artist, not to mention the generosity and hospitality of the family. My close friendship with Gigi and Coco developed when they moved to London in 2002. I had moved to the UK in the late 1990s and was a student of ceramic design at St Martin's in Asia at the RCA. Gigi and Coco were ever so supportive of me studying ceramics. I would visit them in Wigmore Street and later in Porchester Square on my way home from university. Gigi was always curious about what I was learning and how I was allowed to think laterally. Was my mind allowed to be free? Which was sort of the opposite of what I had in Karachi as an art student. We talked about ceramic techniques, about paintings, about art, about life, while we had the best food, the best biryani, the best pickles. But most importantly, Gigi and Coco, for me, were always encouraged me to persevere, read and learn with my eyes and my heart. He gifted me drawings in celebration of personal achievements, which I will cherish forever. He encouraged me to keep going, even in the most challenging of times. Kaam mat choro was what he used to say.
Do your best. With determination and honesty, and the financial side of life will be fine. I think he was right. Gigi was very fond of European porcelain and has a wonderful collection of it, which he and Gogo surrounded themselves with in their house. For example, the Parnera pot next to the table where Gigi sat in their St. Mary's flat. He was particularly fond of Meissen, which is where European porcelain originated in the 18th century. He also loved soft-faced porcelain of Limoges. When I got a job at Rosenthal in Germany, Gigi was most excited and happy. On my return, he was interested to hear how they worked, how the porcelain was manufactured, about the precision of German craftsmanship, and how I could use it in my own practice. He loved the black porcelain from Rosenthal. He was very complimentary of the work that I had done, and his encouragement meant so much to me as a young designer. Gigi, Coco, Shamia, Tinani, and the whole family are my children and my family here in London. My children remember Gigi fondly, his childlike playfulness with my kids and all the kids, Coco's shopping sprees, museum visits with them, even the London dungeon trips with the kids, all remain in our happy memories. Most of my conversations with Gigi, as I mentioned earlier, were about art, life, focus and determination. And he was very curious about the techniques I was using in my workshop. Was I pushing boundaries? Sadly, he never came to my workshop, was very happy to hear about what I was doing. A few years ago, Gigi and Coco asked me to work on a project on ceramic tiles. Gigi wanted to use ceramic techniques using slip in varying consistencies to achieve similar results as he had done with oil paints. He was very charming. He said to me, make a perfect tile and break it at the edges. Make it look as if it broke itself. Gigi did always make me think inside out. Unfortunately, due to time, this project was not completed. I still have the stoneware tiles in my workshop. Gigi was ahead of his time, as in recent years I have made many plates for chefs which have been the same concept, broken. Gigi was one of the finest artists and human beings, one of a kind, with a heart of gold, kind, generous, loving, and very caring for the ones he loved. Gigi and Coco's partnership is exemplary. They love, and the way they complemented each other was endearing. Thank you, Gigi, for the inspiration, the support, and your kindness. You will live in my heart forever. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Hamad Nasir to come and say a few words. He's a London-based curator, writer, and researcher.
Thank you. I first met Jamil Naqsh about 20 years ago, and out of sort of a fanboy excitement, I shared this occurrence of this meeting with another friend, the contemporary artist Imran Qureshi. And Imran related to me his own encounter on television. He described an interview in which the interviewer asked Jamil Saab as to how long is he going to keep on making pigeons. Quick as a flash, Jamil Saab responded, until I get it right. Now it sounds flippant, but it wasn't. For getting it right is not just about representation, but it's about texture, about light, about mood. It's about the possibilities of flight that each pigeon embodies. And it is also about the sound that could emanate from any one of these pigeons that we've been watching on that screen there. Now, you're viewing a two-dimensional representation to embody three dimensions and engage more than just sight is a non-trivial challenge. And what Jamil Naqsh's ambition for his own artwork and his production meant only revealed itself to me many years later. In fact, in front of a small painting that was part of the retrospective that Marjorie was just telling us about at the Mohata Palace Museum. It was a painting about this big, and painted in the early 1980s. It showed a younger version of the artist sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of another painting. that reclines behind him. The entire work was done mostly in red ballpoint pen, with some oil painting. And it's a perfect example, in my mind, of the simplicity of composition, the economy of stroke, and the depth of visual texture in a work that is mostly criss-cross ballpoint pen. Now that work is ingrained in my mind, as is a series of watercolor and ink studies that riff on the Khajuraho sculptures, and a few examples of his early miniature paintings that again we've been privileged to see on the screen here. They all bear elegant testimony to a mastery of line that, in my view, is unsurpassed in the history of art from Pakistan. Now, my encounter with Jamil Naqsh started as a fan, as I admitted. Over time, it sort of graduated into friendship. When Gigi and Coco moved to London, they eventually became neighbors, moving into the flat above us because Gigi really liked the light. And when we had our two boys, we really sort of very much considered ourselves to be part of their extended family. And over the many years, we had the occasion to observe some of the qualities that he brought as an individual into his art. He was, as we've heard, famously reclusive. But every time we went there, we found him open and expansive, indeed generous in his conversation, as interested in talking to our 3-year-old as talking to us. Again, we have these stories of him being constrained within the 4 walls, but his mind wandered endlessly. He had an insatiable curiosity. He considered art to be part of a wider culture, of poetry, of literature, of heritage. And above all, he considered art to be a practice. Riyaz was important, daily. That rigor, discipline, technical virtuosity, craft skill, curiosity, and above all, courage. Courage to stay painting those pigeons for 5 decades, but also the courage to change, to find out new vistas to conquer, to do what he wanted, not to follow the fashions, but follow his own internal voice. It's a voice that we will all miss, but thankfully it lives on in his artwork. Thank you.
I'd like to call Mohammed Rafiuddin to the stage now, and Mohammed is a collector of fine art, a close friend of Naqsh's, with a friendship that spans over 40 years.
It's all been said. I don't really know what I can add to all of this. I had written out a speech, but it's all been said. Everything's in that speech said. So I'm going to change what I was going to say. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, the man I knew, or got to know. 5 words my wife uttered when we were sitting in our room looking at a wall which had a commercial calendar on it. She said, we need some paintings. So I got up, we went out, we talked to some friends. We found out there was no gallery in Karachi at that time. In fact, I don't think there was a gallery in the whole of Pakistan at that time selling his work or any work. And I got hold of some friends of mine who knew Ali Imam. And they said that if you go to Ali Imam, I think he's selling things from his home, and you might be able to find something there that you like. And I did not know Jamil Naqsh at that time, and I was not looking for a Jamil Naqsh painting. So we found out where he lived, and we went into his place, and in this one room he had a series of paintings. And on the wall there was a painting. I did not know the artist, and it was in pointillism. And it was in greens and muted colors, browns, that sort of stuff. And my wife, who was a good artist in her own right, she stopped and she looked at it and she said, this painting on any wall in any country in the world would hold its own. I just looked at it and I looked at the signature there, Ali Imam. So I, being a businessman, I decided not to show too much interest in it because I was going to haggle over the price. So I then went to another room, and there we saw another painting, a 6x4 pointillism. And this time it was in pink, shades of pink. And that struck me. So we saw the rest of the paintings, and then I spoke to Ali Imam. I said, look, I'm interested in these two paintings. And I was ready to haggle with him. The minute he told me the price, I said, Rafiuddin, you're a damn fool if you argue over a cent. I paid him the price, and we took those paintings, and we kept them. And then I went back to him and I said, I'd like some more. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't get you any more because he's had a fight with me and he's not giving me any paintings. I said, okay, give me his address, let me go to him. He won't meet you, he's a recluse. I said, give me the address, let me try my luck. Anyway, I went to the address he gave me, and Nokrani came down, and I said, I'd like Rafi, I'd like to meet Jamil. She went up, and I fully expected her to come down and say, he's not there, he's sleeping, he's doing this or that, but he asked me up. I went up there, and I saw Jamil was sitting cross-legged on the floor, and next to him was the lady sitting right here, Najmi Surah. And I started talking to him, I told him what we thought of his painting, etc., etc., etc. And for some reason, I think he took to me, because he started allowing me to meet him. And at that time, I was going in and out of Karachi all the time, because my business was basically Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, that sort of area. And I was coming because I had my house there, and my wife was obviously left in Karachi when I went on these trips. And while I was outside in one of these stations, this is something that some people might not like to hear, but there you are. And that we will confirm. I saw a Playboy magazine, and there was a picture there of a lady sitting on a diving board. Swimming pool was behind her, and the sunlight was flashing off the water. And immediately I saw that, I said, pointillism, this would work beautifully. I tore that painting out and I gave it to Jamil, and I think she'll confirm it's still in his file somewhere. And I said, I'd like you to do 4 views of this, either 1, 2, 3, 4, in all the 4 sides. And obviously when you ask him, you can't commission Jamil to do anything. He will not do it for you that way. He'll do what he likes, and if he likes what you're saying to him, he might do it or he might not. You can't commission to do a portrait of my wife or me or whatever. He do his own concept of what you would ask him to do. And I again went on my trips around the world, and I came back, and I think about a month and a half, and I said, have the paintings ready? He said, yes. So he brought them out. There again, 6x4. There were 3. So I said, where's the 4th one? I got some excuse or the other, but I have a feeling there is a 4th one, and someone else owns it. So I don't know where he is, but actually that's my painting. Anyway, the odd thing about one of these paintings is you move in the room and her eyes follow you. And it's very strange, but it is actually true. And anyone wants to see it, they can come to my place and I can show it to them, and they can see it following them around. Over time, I collected a lot of Jamil's work. One day I was sitting with him and talking to him, and I noticed he had some little pieces of brown newspaper that he had scribbled something on. So I asked him, what do you do with this? He said, well, Jamadari comes, takes them out, and they're burnt. I said, what? Have you got any more? He said, yes. So I said, show that to me. He brought it, something like this. I said, I'm taking them. He gave them to me. I didn't pay him a cent, he just gave them to me. You will be surprised what's in those little sketches he did. And they're all mostly done on newspaper. Brown that goes yellow, and it goes yellow with time. But I was lucky enough, I brought them to London and I gave them to a person I know who reclaims them, and they have been reclaimed. And they're now, one should see them. Amongst these paintings, there was I think it was something he was trying out on when he was doing Picasso work. I have had it cleaned up and all the rest of it, and it's on my wall, and it's if you didn't know it, you'd say it's Picasso. There is, amongst this lot, there's a painting of him. It's a self-portrait. Pencil, ink and thing, and you'd be surprised. It's just him at that time. And the odd thing about it, that all these things that he was doing, which were really just works that were not meant to be used for anything, all have a signature on it, his signature. Even stuff he was going to throw away, he signed it. So anyway, how should I tell you? I got to know him very well, he got to know my wife very well. He was a very generous person. He gave paintings to people, no cost. He gave paintings to people who he thought should have them. One day I got a phone call from Najmi. She said, "What is your address, postal address?" I said, why does she want my postal address? No, just give it to me. So I gave it to her. 2 days later, I got a roll, and in it was a thing like this, and it's an oil. It's not oil; it's a watercolor. It's the most beautiful painting of a woman crouching down, and it's extraordinary. It's on in my reception room. It's on one of the walls there. He was very generous with his work. Considering the fact that when he started off, I'm going back a bit, when he started off, people were not buying paintings. No one was buying paintings. I have a story which I'm not sure who gave it to me. But in one of these exhibitions, I think Karachi Arts Council exhibition, Desha Kawasji was approached, and there was a painting of him, and he said, "What's the price?" And if my memory serves me right, he said 300 rupees. You won't believe it, but the Desha Kawasji bargained him down to 200 rupees. But there you are. And I go back a bit further. The first time I ever saw Jamil, not realizing he was a Jamil, was in John Kawasji's house. And it was a very large painting. Again, pointillism, pigeons, and sort of browns, greens, and what have you. I looked at it, and the room was very dark otherwise, but it didn't really register with me at that time. But since I got to know him, and I was able to talk to him, and I was able to suggest things to him, which sometimes he took on board, and obviously sometimes he didn't. I remember he was doing very large paintings, and I suggested to him that people don't have the space to do a small painting. He painted 22 of them, as I recall, 24. We will know better. And I bought a decent share of those paintings. Subjects were his. I didn't say do this or paint that or do the third thing or fourth thing. There was always his still. He was, something was unique in his work. If you see his work, you will recognize it. You don't really need to be told about it. There's something unique about his work. Whatever the subject, it's Jamil. It says, I'm a Jamil. I think, what should I now tell you about him? I may be wrong, but when I spoke, when he decided he was going to do a painting, that he had already designed it in his mind. He knew exactly what he was going to do, which colors he was going to do, how he was going to set it out. It was in his mind. If I'm not mistaken, he never used charcoal or pencil, I think, to draw the outline before most artists go and fill it in. He never did that. It was in his mind, and he put it on whatever paper or canvas that he was going to do. And then another thing I know about him, and that is that where there's white in the painting, it's not overpainted when he doesn't put white on it. If you turn that painting around and you look at any painting of his, where there's white, you will see through the light coming through from there, because it was the white of the canvas that remains white. And I don't recall, his hand and his way of working was such that the design of the whatever he was doing, there's no correction in it. If you look at his painting, you will not find a single correction. You can x-ray it, you can do what you like with it, there's no correction. And I can see the lady standing up, she's telling me to get out of this place, so I'm about to do that. Thank you very much, ladies. Oh, one more thing. One more thing. Everyone has spoken about Anatomy Surah, but believe me, without this lady, Jamil would have been a different person. What she's been through with him, what she's done for him, is quite extraordinary, and I salute her.
The last speaker tonight is Shamila Ahmed, Jamil Naqsh's niece, who has specially flown into the UK to attend this event.
Hello everyone, my name is Shamila. As she said, I especially flew from Pakistan to get here. It's becoming again difficult for me because I really wanted to come to the UK to see and spend time with my uncle, Didi, and I couldn't able to come because I didn't have a visa. And I was the most, I felt I didn't have time, I couldn't be able to spend time with my uncle on the last minute. And I don't feel lucky the way my sister, my whole family was here, but I was the only one who was in Karachi. But thanks to a lot of friends over here who kept me online all the time. Or he was in hospital, in funeral, on his burial. I was there at least watching him sitting in Pakistan. I spent my very close time since childhood with Gigi and Coco. I used to write letter, it's always Gigi, Salam Gigi and Coco. One word cannot be with Gigi or Coco. घर में हमारा एक word है Gigi and Coco. It's not two words, it's one word. So Gigi Coco ke paas, if I go back, came from Saudi Arabia. I used to come to Karachi, come to Karachi from Saudi Arabia to spend our summer holidays. And we used to come to Tariq Road. Tariq Road mein hum Gigi Coco hote the. And we used to, I was young, I used to rent a bike. मैं बाइक ले लेती थी और मैं तारिक रोड की गलियों में घूमती फिरती रहती थी। घूमते फिरते हुए मुझे जो किसी के घर के बाहर गार्डन के बाहर फूल अच्छा लगता था मैं तोड़ लेती थी। I used to pluck those flowers from the gardens, from their home, चोरी कर लेती थी, तोड़ लेती थी सबके घर से। और ला के सबसे पहले मैं जीजी को कोको को देती थी। और जीजी कहते थे, अच्छा इतने अच्छे फूल हैं और यहाँ कल और लग गया। Then I used to get more flowers for Gigi and Coco. Bougainvillea था, एक पुप्पी बेल थी, I don't know, पुप्पी के घर थी तो हम उसको पुप्पी बेल कहते हैं, and I think it's Honolulu flowers or something, but I used to call them puppy beal. Gigi started painting those flowers, and a few flower paintings, but he started painting flowers, saying, "ये मेरे लिए शैनी लाती है." Some of the friends and buyers, collectors, saw those flowers painting in the house, and they used to send roses, lilies, and glass. खूबसूरत से खूबसूरत आना शुरू हो गया हमारे घर. And वो कहते थे ये बना दे, as he said. वो कभी भी किसी का कहा हुआ कि ये बना दे, वो कभी नहीं बनाते थे. He used to paint what he feel. There is a feeling in it. और उन्होंने कहा वो फूल मैं बनाऊंगा क्योंकि उसमें वो फीलिंग जिस प्यार से शैनी लेके आती है वो फीलिंग वो प्यार उन फूल में नहीं है। मैं जीजी से लड़ती रहती थी कि जीजी can you give me one flower painting to me because you started painting flowers because of me. So मेरा और जीजी का रिश्ता relationship this was bit of on a naughty or a थोड़ा सा तंग करने वाला रहता था क्योंकि मैं बड़ी जीजी को और गोगो को बहुत तंग करती थी। So जीजी कहते हाँ हाँ दे दूँगा तुम्हें भी दे दूँगा। And I have a beautiful painting of flowers he gifted to me on my birthday. On every कोई आज birthday नहीं होगी तब मुझे जीजी और गोगो ने paintings नहीं दी। And every single birthday I used to get, and I've been getting last on my birthday on March, I get painting from my Coco and Gigi. I remember the first painting I got when I was in Tariq Road. We got huge pigeons, बहुत सारे उनके पास pigeons थे, always. और मैं उस business को देख के बहुत excited हुई. I was young. I used to chain the eggs from one home to one nest and everything. और Gigi ने मुझे डांटा भी, don't do that to the pigeons, right? Then he used to say, okay, sit down and start cutting roti and rice and everything for pigeons. He used to make me sit hours and hours and hours, purani raat ki roti kato pe. And I used to cut and chop and make food for the pigeons all the time. But I realize now what he was teaching me, and he was teaching me how to love nature, take care of animals and be very close to nature. I have seen him been talking to the earth. I have seen him been looking after plants, cats, dogs, thousands of pigeons. I think that the upper studio of Gigi was like a small zoo for us. And we used to get chicks and we used to give it to him. Now please take care of them. He has pigeons, as I said, and I used to sit with him and I used to listen stories of his pigeons. He is ki biwi hai, he's the husband, he got 2 wives, look he's out and he's not coming home. He used to tell me everything and because he studied pigeons so closely and I felt they are human beings. And he used to say, yes, pigeons are like human beings. So I said, then he has separate name for each pigeon. Ye unda hai, ye badmaash hai, ye Tippus ki biwi hai. He has all the stories with all the pigeons. And then when I was leaving, he gave me my first painting, which was of the pigeons. And what the relationship he saw with me, with pigeons and taking care of it. He used to call me when Shani ko bulao, bimar pigeons ko dawa deni hai. So I used to come from my home to Gigi's house and I used to hold them, give them homeopathic medicines, garlic and almonds and I don't know what he used to tell me to give it to them. So for me it was always Gigi made me come especially to give treatments to their sick pigeons. As for us as a family, as a mentor, Coco and Gigi has a very different way of teaching and guiding all entire kids of the family. वो कभी बैठ के आपसे बात करके हाथ पकड़ के कुछ नहीं सिखाते थे. He used to another different way. He used to send us to Kori Garden, जाओ magazines लेकर आओ. Go and buy a lot of magazines. This is the money. Go and buy. And when we were young, we said, what are we going to do with these magazines? He said, no, just keep flipping the pages, keep flipping, and just keep learning. Now I realize what I've learned from all these beautiful living home gardens now, and I see the entire museum and the whole family is so artistic and have the entire sense of lifestyle and everything. That's what I learned from Gigi and Coco. Him being very dedicated to his work and his studio all the time. हम बच्चे उनसे मिल नहीं पाते थे. We used not able to see him, meet him sometimes months. But in the house there was this roof or wall which was half cut for us especially maybe, because we can talk to him through that. And we used to sit outside on the floor and say, Gigi, Gigi, Coco, we want to go out, can you give us the key, can you give us the money? He used to talk to us through the other wall and said, okay, then throw the money and through the car keys from that wall. But he never used to come out. They never let us come inside. They used to just make us sit and just talk to us from through the walls. But कभी-कभी हम चले भी जाते थे उनके स्टूडियो, उनके साथ बैठते, उनके साथ टाइम स्पेंड करते, because Gigi knows and Coco knows whenever my kids need us, he was always there. I remember when I moved to Karachi and my mom was there with me. We were in school and he knows that I was there away from my parents. Then Gigi and Coco used to come and pick me up from my school. And I didn't know that they're standing outside waiting in the heat. बाहर खड़े हुए हैं मेरा स्कूल मुझे लेने आते थे जीजी. And he knows इस बार शैनी को हमारी जरूरत होगी. एक ऐसे और भी इंसिडेंट्स हैं जब जीजी को पता था that Shani needed us the most. When they were in London, they came back from London and they both were sitting, Coco, Gigi and Mama. And I told them, I want to tell you something. He said, what? I said, I got a divorce. They both started crying. But he said, let's celebrate, Shani. You had a new beginning, but don't cry, don't dishearten. I'm with you. And I got, after these words, I got a lot of strength that Gigi is with me. Because he was one of the only person in our family that what he's saying is right. जब वो आपके साथ है, everything, everyone is going to be with you. So that's the strength he always given to us, all the children. And after that, I remember again, I went through all these stupid court and things in Karachi. Finally, the decision was there. I was upset and tense. I didn't know. When I came out, I was smiling. Why? Because I saw Gigi again in the city court with Coco, and I just forgot everything what happened to me inside the court. And I went and I hugged Gigi, and I hugged Coco, and I said, forget it, whatever happened, let's go home again. So Gigi and Coco always being there when we needed them. That's the courage, that's the support they have given it to the entire family members. There's another way, there's another incident I will never ever forget. Once my father had an accident, and it was very tough years of our life, and I was very young. I was just maybe 15 or 16 years old. I was crying, and Gigi said, come and sit here. And I sat with him in front. He put a hand on my head and said, परेशान नहीं होना, मैं जिंदा हूँ. बिल्कुल परेशान नहीं होना, बिल्कुल परेशान नहीं होना. और वो दिन है आज का दिन. Me and my mother started an art gallery. He pushed us, made me also, got into the art business. I started helping my mother. And what my point is telling you, he's a great artist, he's a great person, you all know him. But जब तक वो अच्छा इंसान, इतने बड़े इंसान और इतने बड़े आदमी थे, इसीलिए वो इतने बड़े पेंटर भी हैं. Because he's a great man, he's a great human being. And I remembered a lot of things, and I can keep on going and sharing a lot of my memories with Gigi. Now I just feel so sad that I was not here, not able to say goodbye to him, and not able to hug him. And I feel so, sometimes I just feel helpless. And I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our speakers tonight. I shall end tonight with a story, a tribute that is said to have meant more to Naqsh than any of his awards put together. Professor Shakir Ali, a celebrated, influential, modern artist and art teacher, had been working on a canvas shortly before his death, when he was visited by someone who brought along some paintings by Naqsh. On seeing the paintings, the professor smiled and snapped his paintbrush in two, saying he no longer felt the need to paint as he had found a worthy successor. What makes the story even more poignant is that years ago when Naqsh went to his interview at the Mayo School of Arts and Crafts, Professor Shakir Ali was the principal and had initially actually refused admission to Naqsh, saying he did not possess the skills required. I shall close with a quote from Naqsh: "Formed of a well-needed earth, to return to earth so that others can be born, to confirm my being." On behalf of Jamil Naqsh's family, I would like to express gratitude to all of you who are here tonight and to all those who are here in spirit. We're going to play a much-loved piece of music that Naqsh was often playing in his studio for the last few years, I believe. Thank you.